In the last section, we generated a brand new project using Create React App. We're now going to open up our code editor and find the newly generated client directory. So inside the src folder of the client directory, we're going to start working on one or two new files that's going to represent the different screens that we're able to navigate to inside of our application. Now, when we previously looked at some of our mockups, we saw this kind of fib calculator that you see on the left-hand side over here. In reality, we're going to actually make two separate pages that a user can visit, both the fib calculator on the left-hand side, and then we're going to have some other kind of dummy page on the right-hand side. The only reason that we're doing this other page over here, which we're going to literally call other page, is to show you an example of HTML5 push state routing. So if you don't have a background in React or React Router, don't worry about it too much. Essentially, I just want to make sure that you have a very complete front-end example that shows you how you can navigate to different nested pages in a single application while still using Docker. So to get started, we're going to first put together a very little bit of code to represent this other page over here. We'll then start to work on the fib calculator, this screen over here on the left-hand side. So for the screen on the right-hand side, I'm going to open up my code editor. I'll find the client src folder. And then inside there, I'm going to create a new file called otherpage.js. Inside of here, we will import React from React. I will import link from React Router DOM. And then I will export default a functional component, like so. And then inside there, I'm going to return just a tiny bit of JSX. So it's going to have a div. The div will have some text like I'm some other page, and it will also have a link back to our main page. And we'll give it the text of go back home. Okay, so again, we're just doing this right here so I can give you a complete navigational example on the front end of our application. And if you're not coming from the world of React or React Router DOM or anything like that, don't sweat it. Essentially, it's just another page that we want to be able to navigate to. So now that we've got that all put together, we're going to start working on the main page, so the actual Fibonacci calculator. So on this thing, we want to have a form where a user can enter in some index and submit it, and then see a list of all the indexes that have ever been submitted, and see a list of all the different values that have been calculated. So for that, I'm going to create another new file inside my src directory, and I'm going to call this one fib.js, like so. Then inside of here, we'll start off with a little import statement at the top. I will import React and component from React. I will import Axios from Axios, which is a module that we're going to use for making requests to that backend Express server. And then we'll create a new class called fib, which is going to be extending the component base class. At the very top of this, we're going to initialize some default state. So I'll say state equals an object, and I'll have a couple of different properties inside of it. I'll say scene indexes is an array, values is going to be an empty object, and index will be an empty string, like so. Now we're going through this code pretty quickly. As a reminder, I'm just kind of giving you a very high-level description of what's going on. This is all stuff that is super unrelated from the world of Docker. And if you don't care to learn any of this JavaScript stuff, or you just don't care about it one bit, you can always continue on to that future section that has all this code for download. I'm just putting these videos in here in case you're kind of curious about the inner workings of the application. All right, so now the instant that this component is rendered on the screen, we're going to want to attempt to fetch some data from our backend API. So I will define a component did mount lifecycle method that will call two helper methods. One will be this.fetch values, and the other will be this.fetch indexes. And then I will define both those helper methods. So first off, fetch values. This is going to be an asynchronous method, so I will mark it with the async keyword because we're going to do a little bit of data fetching in here. So I will make a request to get a list of all the different values that have been stored on our API. I'll say await axios.get /API/values/current, like so. And then I will set my state on this component by calling this .setState and passing in an object with values is values.data, like so. Then we'll also set up the fetch indexes. So this is the list of indexes that have been requested and stored inside of our Postgres server. It's kind of the hard-coded copy, just saying, hey, here's a list of all the indexes that have been ever submitted to the application. And so for that, we'll define another async method called fetch indexes. And this is going to look very similar to the helper function that we just put together. So I'll say const seen indexes. Again, this is a list of all the indexes we've ever seen. Will be await axios.get /API/values/all. Oop. All without a V. And then we will again update our state by calling setState. And I'll pass in a key value pair of seen indexes is seen indexes.data, like so. Now I'm just going to double check to make sure that all my state lines up here. Yep, I got seen indexes and values, and seen indexes. All right, so let's take a quick pause right here. When we come back to the next section, we're going to take this data that we are fetching from the backend API and attempt to render it on the screen after this component is rendered. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.